Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough, and here is a mini dose of Dr. Debbie where I'm sharing tips, suggestions, strategies, and sometimes just motivation to have you move past your betrayal once and for all. Hi there. So last week, if you listened to last week's episode, I was talking about guilt and all the ways we can feel guilty and what a waste of time it is and how it's really doing nothing to help you move forward, to help your partner, none of it. So I gave you some strategies on what to do about it, but there were so many more aspects of guilt and so many other ways we can feel guilty that I didn't share because I felt like it would just be a super long episode. And I felt like they deserved their own episode. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I want to talk about guilt again. If you missed that episode, check it out. But there were some areas that I left out because I wanted to give them their own time. And these are areas that really affect us in our in our various types of relationships. So one is friendships. And when I'm talking about friendships, what happens when you've outgrown your friendships? You've outgrown your friend group. So often we can feel guilty. We don't want to spend time with those people anymore. We don't feel open and expanded and good and feeling better for having spent that time. And we don't look forward to it. And it could be, well, we always get together with this one couple, or we always get together with this group. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't belong anymore. I just don't feel like it, or I'm just not getting anything out of it. And I'd rather be, either with other friends or by myself or, taking care of myself, whatever it is. And we can feel so guilty because we can change. We're the ones who were making those changes. Your friends didn't change, you did. But all of a sudden, it's causing this sort of weird thing where you think, well, I have to just keep going along because I'm not going to be the one who, we've been doing this, every Friday night for the last 10 years. I'm not going to be the one who stops going out or whatever. And it takes a lot to realize you've just outgrown these friends. And you're really not doing you or them a favor by showing up and not feeling good about it. So instead, what many people do is they would just keep going and feel guilty about not going and continue. But you know what? Think about it. If your time is better spent just taking care of yourself, being with friends that you're now ready for in your life, well, you know what? We always hear people are in our lives for a reason, for a season, for a lifetime. And maybe it could have been a reason you raised your kids with them. Maybe it was you were all working together. Maybe it was you were part of the same group or club, whatever it was. And now you are in a different direction, or you just have different interests, or you see they're just, I don't know, gossiping or just taking part in things that just no longer interest you. It's time to go and it's time to grow. So it could have been that they were in your life for a reason, for a season. And instead of feeling guilty, everything is energy. They feel it, you feel it. So it may be time to just cut back on those regularly scheduled times with your friends. Now we're going to dive in even deeper. What happens when you fall out of love? Now, this could be, think about this. You weren't counting on that. You were counting on spending the rest of your life with this person, but maybe it was because of the betrayal, and it shook you so much, which betrayal will absolutely do. And I want to be really clear here. When I say you've fallen out of love, very often we think that's the case because there's so much anger and sadness right behind it. What I would invite you to do, instead of making a decision, I'm out of love, I've fallen out of love, this is over, heal from your betrayal. And if you still feel that way, that's different. But very often it can show up as I've fallen out of love when it's really, I'm devastated, or I'm furious. That's right behind it. So move through the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. If you still feel the same way, that's a different story. But what happens if you've fallen out of love? Like, let's say you move through the stages, you're in stage 5, and this relationship has run its course. You're done. You've fallen out of love, right? You could feel guilty about it, of course, but again, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing your partner a favor by staying in a relationship that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel right, that isn't honoring to the two of you. Maybe you just are ready for something very different. Maybe you realize, wow, you know what? This truly is the best I'm going to get from this person, but I'm not feeling honored. I'm not feeling respected. I'm not feeling valued. I'm not feeling regarded. I'm not being loved in the way that I need. And we've exhausted this so many times and nothing's changing. And people only change when they want to change, of course. They truly don't want to change, but you really don't want to settle anymore. And it's led to you falling out of love, right? And instead, you could just feel so guilty. Well, oh my gosh, we've invested all these years. We've invested all this time. We have all this history together. Yes. And again, if it's a loveless relationship, a loveless marriage, what's happening here? Think about it. Is feeling guilty about it helping either one of you? Is feeling guilty about it doing anything? Feeling guilty about it is just trying to keep things the way they are, keeping things at bay. You know, I did 2 TEDx talks, and the first one, Stop Sabotaging Yourself. I remember saying that we don't like change. We just don't like it. So what we do is we spend so much energy keeping things as they are. And it's like you're holding these rocks in place, because if you let them go, it's going to be an avalanche. And you're spending all your energy and all your strength just trying to keep things as is, because it would cause this devastation. But think about it, even if it causes a shakeup and it causes a change, eventually, when you move through it, when your partner moves through it, you're both better for it, because we're not here just to settle. We're not here just to make do, right? So think about if you're feeling guilty as a way to prevent making those changes when you've fallen out of love. You're sort of done with the relationship. Think about that one. Another one. I'm not saying any of this is easy, by the way. Another one. What happens when, let's say, you get divorced and then you choose sides? You know, this happens a lot. Where it's you love both of the people in the couple, but they're really upset and offended and whatever if you spend time with one and you decide, okay, you know what, I'm just going to choose you, and you choose sides, and you feel so guilty about it because, well, the other person in your mind, it just, and from your own experience, they had a hard time, but you loved them both. Well, first of all, think about choosing sides. Does that feel right for you? I mean, yes, it may be making the person you're choosing happy and feel justified or vindicated or whatever, but how does that make you feel? And maybe that really, really doesn't feel right in your heart, where you're just kind of abandoning the other one when it just didn't work out because of the issues that they had. So first, think about if that feels right for you, because if you're feeling guilty about it, then check in. Why do you feel guilty? Maybe you feel guilty because that's a really good person and I don't feel right just abandoning them because my friend is having a hard time with this, right? Or maybe you just feel guilty because you didn't like that person either, and you know they're feeling rejected or abandoned. So what can you do with those feelings? Can you have a conversation with them? Can you stay in touch with them? Is it in your best interest, not the other person's best interest? Is it in your best interest to choose those sides and be okay with it, and lovingly just let the relationship sort of be released. What works right, what works best for you, what's in your best interest to do, and how does it feel right in your heart? Because if you're feeling guilty about choosing sides, check and really run through that and see, is that the right decision for you? Does it feel right? Does it need a conversation? Does it need some closure? What do you need to do if you are choosing sides? And even in the first place, if choosing sides is right for you. So if you're feeling guilty, good reason to look that over and look that through and see if if there's something bigger going on there that needs clarity or that needs closure. All right, this one within the PBT Institute, especially when couples separate and divorce, I hear this one all the time, and it's, I feel so guilty about breaking up the family. Now, first of all, I'm speaking to the betrayed. You did not break up the family. The betrayer, I mean, not to blame here, but let's be honest, the betrayer's actions are what broke up the family. You having consequences for those actions does not mean you broke up the family. But so often, if I tell you how many people I have worked with over the years that said, I feel so guilty, I broke up a family. And they're taking it on when they weren't the ones to betray. And even this is even crazier. So if you're doing this, be aware of this one. It wasn't even, so the betrayed, so the betrayer does what they do, then they even fall in love with somebody else. They break off they're the ones ending the marriage, ending the relationship, and still the betrayed is feeling like they broke up the family because they're the ones who had the betrayer leave, or they're the ones who moved, or whatever. Let's be so clear about this one. You did not break up a family. You did not. So that's something that needs a ton of support. So, listen, I'm just sharing the basics with you here, but get support around this because these are big topics. Now, as it relates to breaking up the family, the next thing that I hear a lot is about the kids. And we can feel so guilty that now and I hear this a lot from the betrayed, they're on their own, they're trying to make it work, but they don't have the finances to go on the great trips or do those big things, or just all the extravagance, or just even the togetherness of the family unit going on vacation together or having these experiences together. And this is something that they feel really guilty about. I remember one of our members in particular, she felt so guilty about this. And they used to go on these, really, when she was married, they'd go on these fancy trips. And then she just didn't have the finances to be able to do that with her two kids once they were divorced. And, and I told her, it's not about fancy, it's about fun. So what can you do that's within your budget that would be really fun to do with the kids? And we came up with this really fun thing. And so what she did was she rented an RV, and this way they could all live in the RV for this period of time. I think it was like a 2-week vacation or something they were taking. And they mapped out a route that they would take, and they had these different themes. So every whether it was state they were in or place they went, I forgot what it was, they had a theme, and they had these different hats and these different costumes and all this, this different way of celebrating where they were and what they were doing. And then I remember meeting with her after, and she said it was the best vacation the kids ever had. Now, was she nervous taking this on, driving this big RV and figuring this out and doing this on her own? Of course she was. But it turned out to be so rewarding and so memorable. And it really didn't cost a lot, nearly as much as it would have, compared to the old vacations and trips and things that she used to do. So instead of feeling guilty that you can't do the same thing, can't think about it. What's the most meaningful things that you remember in your life? It's typically not the big extravagant things. It's when you pitched a tent in the living room and told stories, whatever, right? So think about that. Like I could tell you, one of my most favorite things, and this is just thinking of the RV. We did this years ago too. We rented an RV, and I don't know if I love the Food Network, and there's a show, Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives. And what we did was, and this is, I was mostly in New York at the time, and we mapped out this route going from New York to Florida and stopping at every triple D, diners, drive-ins, and dives stop we could find along the way. Well, I must have gained 10 pounds that trip, but we found places. It was so fun and so silly and so simple, but so different. And there was even a place, I think it was in Maryland. We went to one place. It was like a pancake, it was a breakfast place. And then there was a barbecue place 5 minutes away. So I think within a 2-hour span, we had breakfast, we had lunch. It was just insane, but so much fun. So, it again, can you feel guilty that you're making these changes? Of course, but it's not doing anything for you or for your family or for your friends or for those you love in any way, shape, or form. So let's get back to the ones that I talked about. We talked about if you're outgrowing your friends, instead of feeling guilty, remember, relationships have a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Figure out what it was, and feeling guilty doesn't help anything, and everything's energy. So your friends are probably feeling it too. Falling out of love. This is a big one. But before you do anything about that, get to stage 5. And then, is it in fact that you did fall out of love, or was it just deep sadness or rage or fury behind what you thought was you fell out of love? Now, once you're there and you realize, no, I really do not love this person anymore, that's very different. Then, instead of feeling guilty about it as a way to prevent change, it may be time to make that change. When it's time to choose sides, well, check that too. Are you choosing sides and feeling guilty because it just doesn't feel right in your heart? Or do you feel guilty because you didn't have closure with the other person? What's going on there? Dig a little deeper and see, and have that closure, have that conversation, or don't choose sides, whatever feels right for you. Or as far as breaking up a family, you did not break up a family. The betrayer, the betrayal broke up the family. For you to have consequences because of it, there's nothing to feel guilty about. You're rebuilding yourself, your self-worth, your confidence, all of that. So if children are affected by it, remember, instead of feeling guilty, make it work with your ex, in the best way you can that serves you both well. These are still your kids' parents, right? That's still your kids' parent. And you need to find a way to just do that feels safe and okay. And this way your kids feel like they're not, the other partner is getting thrown under the bus. As far as you with doing fun things with your kids or whatever, feeling guilty that you don't have the resources to do those amazing things with your kids that maybe you thought was amazing that you did when you were together as a family, well, make some changes. And it's not about the fancy, it's about the fun. And you have an unlimited amount of things you can do that really don't involve a lot of money. They involve some creativity. And I'm sure if you look stuff up like that, you can come up with things. Like I said, I was working with our one client, and this was just one time we talked about it, and she created that amazing trip. So, which cost very little compared to what she used to spend, and it was the best, her best vacation with the kids. So, lots that we can do instead of feeling guilty. Again, if guilt was a healthy emotion that did anything for you, I'd say go for it, right? But instead, if guilt motivates you towards action, that's okay. Let it do that. But just to feel guilty as a way to prevent doing something, or as a way to like balance the unpleasant and uncomfortable emotions you feel, that's not helping anything. Or to prevent doing something that would cause a big shakeup. Remember, nothing good comes easy. And you've heard me say this many times: hard now, easy later. Easy now, hard later. Take your pick. It's going to be one of those two. So this is a case of, if you've been feeling guilty for a while because you're afraid of doing something, well, that's been easy now. But if you notice, hard later, the problem is still there. It still doesn't feel the way you want it to. So instead, consider hard now, which would be having that conversation, making that change, easy later. Everybody adjusts, everybody adapts, and you're feeling good, and your heart is clear, and you're not walking around with guilt, and you can rebuild. So I hope that helps. Can't wait to see you next time. You need the right tools, support, and the right community to move through the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. And we have all that within the PBT Institute. So join us at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com. There's a version of you who's so confident, healthy, peaceful, and happy on the other end of your healing. And we can't wait to help you get there. We got you. Thanks for listening. And here's to your breakthrough.